Is your life better under Trump than it was under Biden? The numbers do not lie. Major crime categories are falling. Mid-year 2025 city reporting shows homicides down 17% compared to the same stretch in 2024. Robberies, motor vehicles, thefts, aggravated assaults, all down. Many of them double digits. The people pretending it's not happening under Trump are only proving one thing, that they hate a man more than they love results. Welcome to Stay in the Fray Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. This is where headlines get hit hard, hypocrisy gets shredded, and the absurd are laughed at. If you want comfort, this isn't your place. If you want blunt and unfiltered, I'm your guy. Join me in the fray.
All you gotta do is just listen up.
Welcome back. I need to settle something. I need to get into this. It just needs to be said. It's something that I hear the same doom chorus from the press, from Trump's opposition, from all the left. They scream chaos and use words like fascism, all the other words that they like to use falsely as well when describing the current administration and its supporters. But the numbers of how we're doing under that administration are quietly disagreeing with you. Why are they unable or unwilling to see it? I'm going to ask you all a simple question. Is your life better under Trump than it was under Biden? Allow me to help you here on this episode. Crime is down, inflation is cooling, people are living a little easier for sure. Stick with me here on this show. Check this out. I'll break it down. Got the receipts. It's relatively quick if you're willing to listen. This is Stay in the Fray Podcast. It is September the 24th, 2025. Let's roll. And we're not talking about some distant 10-year trend. What I mean is right now, from this time last year under Joe Biden, in his last gasp of his presidency, to the 9-month mark, 8-month mark under Trump, the numbers do not lie. Major crime categories are falling. Mid-year 2025 city reporting shows homicides down 17% compared to the same stretch in 2024. Robberies, motor vehicles, thefts, aggravated assaults, all down. Many of them double digits. That's real. It's measurable change, and it matters, okay? Here's the politics. Democrats would rather shout than fix. Some blue cities still have real problems, not denying that, but tougher borders, federal pressure, and a harder stance on violent crimes are pushing the numbers down everywhere else. To admit that, though, is to admit Trump scored a win. So they ignore progress and they keep the outrage machine humming. Pride over results every time. We'll take DC. I've talked about it before, but I will talk about it again. Let's use it as a case study. Do most people even know what the National Guard has actually been doing there? Or do you just jump on the militarization line that you're fed? Those guardsmen and women have been detaining suspects until police arrive. Crime scenes, making sure that the police departments have assistance. They help track down missing kids. They carry groceries for residents. They even handle neighborhood disputes. But that's not a military occupation. That's help. And if you're more worried about a soldier nearby than you are about another teenager bleeding out on the street, your priorities are upside down. Let's be honest. Not every city is rosy. Like I mentioned, a handful saw homicide upticks mid-year. But if you look closer to the same deep blue cities with mayors who would rather posture than cooperate with a president that they hate, local leadership failure is the problem. But the media will not say that. The Democrat people won't say that. It's easier to scream, Trump's America is unsafe, than admit their own side is asleep at the wheel. Here is the big picture. National crime is trending down from the pandemic spike, and even more so now under Donald Trump's administration. Enforcement, community support, and smarter policing are working. The people pretending it's not happening under Trump are only proving one thing, that they hate a man more than they love results. That's sad for this country and dangerous for the communities left behind. All right, let's talk money, because at the end of the day, crime stats matter, but nothing hits harder to most than the price of gas and eggs. It's just how people judge if life feels better or worse, right? It was quite the focal point before the election and into the beginning of transition of power. I'm not here to pretend that Trump waved a magic wand and suddenly everything's perfect. But let's be serious. The idea that things are worse now than under Biden with this, the economy, with food and gas, come on. Inflation last year was running hot, way above normal, crushing household budgets. Under Biden, we watched costs spiral, food inflation, housing inflation, energy spikes. By this same point in 2024, inflation was still chewing people alive. Headline inflation was at 3.7%. Core inflation around 4.3%. Now, headline inflation 2.9%, core inflation 3.1%. That's not some skyrocketing inflation that everybody's trying to pin on Trump. It's actually stabilization. Gas prices are down. The national average is lower this time than last year. Egg prices are down as well. Let's not forget, the reason there was a spike is because there was a bird flu that wiped out 50 million fucking chickens late last year, I think. That may have stunted egg production. Of course, the egg prices were high when that happened. That wasn't Trump's fault, unless you think he personally spread the flu on the hens. As soon as I said that, I realized that some of you actually might try to say that. Now, yes, groceries overall are up about 2.9% year over year. I'm not here to give you misinformation. I admit that they are up, but compare that to the 8 to 10% spikes we saw under Biden. At that point, you realize that we're in stability, not a collapse of the middle class. Does it sting a little at the checkout line? Of course. But is it worse than Biden's food inflation circus? Absolutely not. And in places where prices are still spiking, California, New York, that's not federal policy doing that. That's local leadership layering taxes, energy restrictions, and costs on top of the national trends. We cannot forget the tariffs in this conversation. Self-proclaimed experts all over social media scream that tariffs would destroy us. He's ruining every relationship we've ever had with anybody in the world. Now they refuse to admit that those tariffs are driving investment back into America like we haven't seen in a long time. Trump's trade deals and tariffs aren't about cheap imports. They're about leverage, pushing production back home, negotiating fairer deals, which is a big one, and you get steadier prices long term with more American jobs. Companies are already reshoring and investing here because of it. Don't forget Doge in all of this either. The effort to cut down frivolous government spending. Imagine that. Funny how trimming the fat doesn't wreck the economy after all. Who would have thought? The bottom line, are we done? No. It takes time for policies to fully work through an economy. But we're on a path towards stability. That's just numbers and facts. To claim life is worse financially today than it was a year ago, that's either ignorance or spin. Either way, it's nonsense. Here's the tough one. Healthcare. Healthcare is always the iceberg under the surface. Even when inflation cools, your grocery bills shrink, or gas prices dip, medical costs seem to keep climbing. That's the part that families feel. Let's be honest, this is not Trump's biggest win. Yet, I can admit these things. The man is not infallible, but he's also very busy. In July 2025, healthcare inflation was still running about 4.3% year over year. That means doctor visits, insurance premiums, deductibles, drugs, all of that still eating into your wallet. So no, he hasn't solved this. But is it worse than Biden? Absolutely not. Under Biden, healthcare inflation regularly outpaced wage growth. Out-of-pocket costs ballooned. Deductibles kept rising. And while his team bragged about ACA subsidies, the reality was simple. Middle-class families kept paying more for less. That was the Biden record, and it's drenched in facts. Trump At least he's trying to address the underlying costs. You don't hear about these efforts much from the media, of course. You have to dig a little bit. He pushed negotiations to lower prescription drug prices. He pressed for caps on insulin and cheaper generic drug access. And yes, Democrats fought him every step of the way because, God forbid, they let Trump claim progress in a sector that they think of as their own. That's why some reforms are still delayed. Lawsuits, gridlock, and opposition. Do I think Trump's fixed it? No. And here's where I'm fair. He has to do more. The prices aren't dropping fast enough. But the narrative that he's gutting healthcare is dishonest. The left sells that line to scare voters. Grandma's insulin will vanish. Cancer patients will die. It's theater. The reality is Trump is nudging the system towards affordability, and that's something Biden never managed. And this has to be said. Nothing is free. I'm tired of hearing this free healthcare, free this, free that. The Democrats promise free healthcare, but somebody's paying for it. You people have got to understand this. It ends up being the middle class through higher taxes, slower growth, or worse care. I preach that one all the time. Be careful what you ask for with the care, the quality of care. That is not reform. That's just redistribution. Real reform means cutting costs in the system, tackling pharma and insurance lobbyists, and making care simpler without taxing the life out of working families. And don't you dare talk about crushing the rich with taxes. First off, it's stealing. Second, this isn't a socialist country. You don't tax the wealthy to get to the poor. Third, that money would be moved out of America faster than Congress could vote on a pay raise. And how exactly would that help anyone here? Healthcare isn't fixed yet. 100% agree. But if you're being honest, it was worse under Biden. So I'm tired of hearing it. Trump is not gutting the system. He's trying to bend it towards some sanity. And that's worth more than slogans and free everything. So here's what frustrates me most. We've got the numbers right in front of us. I just gave you a bunch of them. Falling crime, cooling inflation, investments coming back to the United States. And yet the media, and more so the internet pundits, refuse to acknowledge a single win under Trump. They just can't do it. They just can't. Instead, we get the same lazy recycled labels. Fascist, racist, comparing him to Hitler. It's unbelievable. First off, they're wrong. They don't even know the meaning of these words, or they just hope that whoever they're saying them to is too stupid to know. But that's the level of debate now from that side. There's none. The danger here isn't just slander. It's that these words fuel the weak-minded into thinking violence is justified. If you've convinced yourself that your neighbor is literally living under Hitler, you start to believe that throwing a brick, lighting a fire, or punching someone in the face because they're wearing a red hat is resistance. Charlie Kirk was killed. Today, ICE agents here in Dallas were killed. That is not politics. That's indoctrination that leads to political violence. It's being spoon-fed by the media and amplified by social media echo chambers. Let's run through their outrages about Trump, shall we? I'm trying to figure it out. Enforcing the law, Trump sends the guard into D.C. to help the communities, detaining suspects, finding kids, even carrying groceries. And somehow that's militarization. Helping people is bad now. Interesting. The mass deportations, some people say that's the reason that they have such a huge problem with Donald Trump. I don't care. He's enforcing immigration law. The horror. What a monster. Actually expecting people to come here legally. And he's doing what the vast majority of this country voted on. We've already covered a little bit on the tariffs, but this was another big one. He's going to ruin everything with tariffs, and he's treating our allies badly. Shut up. They scream about economic disaster from the tariffs, and what happened? Factories started reopening, investments started flowing in. Media spin doesn't change math. What about this whole Putin thing? The fact that he met with him. It's called diplomacy. Trying to end wars, which he has. Funny how they loved diplomacy when Biden was fumbling and stumbling through Europe, but Trump talking to Russia is suddenly treason. Never mind all those conflicts I just mentioned, and wars, quite frankly. that he's already cooled down or ended completely. The hate for Trump is irrational. You don't have to like his personality. That's fine. If you think he's cocky, blunt, brash, fair enough. I don't mind it as much. I don't mind those qualities in a leader. But some do, and I get that, and you're entitled to that. But none of that equals dictator or Hitler or fascist. That's just theater to distract from the fact that under Trump, life is actually trending better for Americans. And that is the real tell. The scoreboard shows progress, but the commentators keep yelling apocalypse. You're not dealing with journalism. You're dealing with propaganda, plain and simple. So, are we better? That was our question. The short answer is yes. I think I proved it. Hard data backs it. Am I biased? A little, but I'm also using facts. I spent plenty of time making sure that I didn't give you any misinformation today. Violent crime again has fallen. First half of 2025. Homicides down, robberies down, carjackings and vehicle theft down. Those are good things. The real decreases you can measure. They're not just feelings. Inflation. Headline CPI is down into the high twos. Like I said, 2.9% year over year in August 2025. That means that prices are stabilizing and not running hot. That's not a miracle. It's math and policy working through the system. Healthcare still hurts a little. I admit it. Medical costs are rising faster than headline inflation. And that's some real pain that families feel. But health cost growth is its own beast. And the administration's drug pricing and reform, the moves are in process. They're not instant. Give it time and come to me in a year from now or 2 years from now and tell me that nothing's happened. Bookmark it. Don't pretend the solution on that is free and just delivered by slogans, okay? Industry and jobs. Companies are announcing big investments. Factories are expanding and reshoring FDI projects are on the books. That is how you rebuild a supply chain, create jobs, and cool long-run price volatility. This is the long game, and it's happening. So yes, on crime, inflation, and investment, the trend is better. That's verifiable, not opinion. It's not opinion. For the people who still refuse to see it, congratulations, you've turned politics into a religion. Your side losing a narrative matters more to you than an actual safer street, a paycheck that stretches a little further, or a factory hiring in your county. You don't get to call yourself moral while cheering for chaos because a politician makes you feel righteous. That's cowardice, dressed up as virtue. I'll be blunt. When acknowledging a win for the other side would be admitting your team isn't perfect, you switch to slander. Fascist, Hitler, dictator. All of those words don't explain any of your policy ideas. And they're factually inaccurate to boot. They excuse violence. They turn disagreement into justification for mayhem. And that's not debate. It's a threat to people's lives. Who do you think you are? If you're furious that policies you dislike are working, that's a bad look. It means your priority is your side, not the country as a whole. You want to be right more than you want the country to improve. That's why the progress gets ignored and the outrage is amplified. Shame on you and shame on all of that. Call out bad policy when it's bad, sure. Like I said, there are a few things here that I agree need to be done. But don't pretend that every result you dislike is an apocalypse. Final deal before I go. We're not at perfection. Healthcare needs work. Some cities still struggle with inner city crime. Policy takes time, but facts are greater than fury. If you want change, fix local leadership, demand accountability, and stop celebrating chaos just because the other side is in office. That's it. Share this, guys. Pass it around. We're a team. Spread the word. Like, follow, subscribe. I hate asking for it, but every little bit helps. Anything that you do that's interaction on these social media pages and the podcast sites, you have no idea how much it helps and how much we can beat the algorithms that still tend to suppress these types of realities. So stay skeptical, stay focused on the facts, stay loyal to country, stay in the fray. Love you guys.
All you gotta do is just listen up.